Welcome back, guys, to another video of How Many Shares. Today we're talking about ticker ABR. This is Arbor Realty Trust. It's a very popular REIT. It's definitely higher risk. So I just did a video about ticker O, Realty Income, and how it's a great low risk but pretty high dividend yield still. Arbor Realty is kind of the opposite of Realty Income. It's a lot higher risk and it has a lot higher dividend yield. So O has about a 6% yield. ABR has a 13.43% dividend yield. Absolutely insane. They have been going through a bit of a rough patch, and there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about with this one. So we're going to go over three things that are really important when you're looking at a dividend stock. We're going to go over their price appreciation over the years, and tied into that is their dividend history, how their dividends paid out, how the price has gone with those dividends paying out. We're going to go over their financials, see exactly where they are with key metrics. Just one of probably the most important one off the top of my head is payout ratio, and Arbor Realty has some trouble in this area. And then number three, we're going to do a drip calculator and compare it to Realty Income and see which one would be more profitable had you started investing at the same time. So the drip will be a little bit interesting, and I'll explain that when we get to that point. It's honestly one of my favorite points of these videos because it's really cool to see how these stocks would compare. If you had 10K 10 years ago, 15 years ago, how much money would it be worth now? I think that's so important when you're shopping for stocks, stock shopping. So first, let's look at this chart. So the 1 year chart for Arbor is interesting. They had a really bad article drop about them in the media. It circulated everywhere, and the stock fell 26% in a matter of 2 weeks. 12 days even, a little under 2 weeks. It was insane. So here's what I did. I didn't believe it. I watched a couple videos on it. I read up some stuff on it, and I found some good information that basically that the video had no real sources, and it didn't even have a real listed author, and that it was like a registered company in like the Cayman Islands or something like that. So I figured it was fake, and it turned out to be fake. They made a bunch of accusations against like the CEO, against like money laundering, like not just some, oh, it's like a bad company. They were throwing out some really harsh, I think some felonies were in there too. So since then, the company has done extremely well. I'm sure that whoever put out that hit piece bought in and made a nice 68, 70% return on it. And that's probably what they were going for. Since then, it started to fall again. The market kind of turned. This was during a good point of the market. And so that coupled with the fact that it was so beaten down, people were eating the stock up. And now it's falling even lower than it was before that hit piece went out, still down almost 20%. Now, there are some metrics that we'll talk about, which could be part of the reason why this is falling, but 5 year chart, not great, 5%. I like having more. I like having growth and dividends, but that's kind of the best of both worlds, like Realty Income. So key things here, this is, like I said, a REIT. And so they did cut their dividend in 2008. 2008, 2009. I think they stopped their dividend altogether. We'll look at that on the dividend history when the housing market crashed. And since then, they've just continued to trail up pretty nicely, except for the pandemic and a few other drops here. So it is overall a good company, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. It's not financial advice. And now let's just look at the dividend history. So we'll go to their 10-year and we'll go to their max. So like I said, they had some pretty decent dividends. They pay out quarterly. I like monthly payers, but quarterly is fine too. You know, you can't win them all. And so they did cut their dividend from late 2008, it looks like 2009, all the way until they started paying again in Q2 of 2012. And since then, it's just been growing. They even had a special dividend right here, which I love. No more special dividends, but it's been doing well. Now, it is getting a little bit scary now because the price is falling so much, the dividend yield is going so high, and the payout ratio is not looking the best. But I do like that it has about, 11, 12, 13 consecutive years of dividend growth. Which is just a bonus. We can see that they are growing their dividend at a really fast rate as well, because they grew it 3 cents in 2022, another 3 cents so far in 2023. I hope they don't grow it again. I hope we don't see a 43 cent or 44 cent Q4, because I want them to hold this money and start paying down, maybe on outstanding debt, fixing this debt payout ratio, all that kind of stuff, because there's a lot that goes into that. But we'll see what they end up doing. I am very curious. I think today they have a call. Yeah, they have an earnings call today. So we'll see what comes up in that. Now, they have good consecutive years of dividend growth compared to the sector, and consecutive years of dividend payment is only 10 years because of the crazy cut that they had to do in 2008, 2009. No, we'll go to their dividend safety. Let's see what they rate it. Okay. Cash dividend payout ratio. This is 75%. It's a little bit high. Their dividend payout ratio full is 96%. So quick thing, dividend payout ratio is a really good metric to see how much money the company is giving towards their dividend versus what they're earning. So when your ratio gets over 100%, it means you're paying out more in dividends than you're recouping. So basically, it's not a long. It's an issue of longevity. If your dividend payout ratio is too high, you cannot afford to pay that out long term. And so they may be banking on like a couple million in reserves of cash. So let's say maybe you could be over that 100% dividend payout ratio for a number of years, but overall it is the company losing money for operations, and so it's a bad sign. Now, they are really high in that, and it is interesting. It does worry me quite a bit. Look at them. They're 170% different to the sector, which is probably the sector median. Yeah. So that's really the main thing that scares me with ABR. That's why the dividend yield is so high. You're not going to have a dividend yield be this high and not be this scary, really. If it was a safe 14% dividend yield, everybody would be buying it, and it would be insane. So that's why, with the pros come the cons. Realty is the opposite of ABR, because ABR is really high risk but really high reward, and Realty is just consecutive solid dividends paid out at a 5 to 6% yield over time, and that's actually high for what Realty has been. When I first bought Realty like 5 years ago, it was like a 4% yield, so they've been doing well in my opinion. Let's go to their financials and just read into some of this stuff. There's a lot of information in here. I'm not going to bore you guys with it like crazy. Some of their revenue has been dropping a bit. Nothing insane. A lot of this, you can't just look at revenue and say, oh, it's going down, that's a bad thing. Typically, yes, but there are some other things that could go into it that could be causing loss of revenue. Interest rates, stuff like that. Depends on how much. I'm not going to dive just too deep into their holdings and whatnot in this video. I'll do that in like a 5-minute DD kind of video, because then you can see this is going to be less revenue for them overall with interest rates going up, because they probably don't own physically all their properties. They probably have leases, mortgages and stuff on these properties. So income, there's a bunch of good information here. Earnings per share is always important. Revenue per share has been bouncing all over the place, a little bit higher, which I do like to see. Now I'm going to go into Yahoo and talk about institution and insider holding. So only 2% held by insiders, which is kind of a lot. Their market cap is huge. Their market cap is $2.4 billion. So that's still a good amount held by insiders. And institutions, 55%. Some you'll end up getting 70-something%, but when you have 55% held by institutions, this isn't the best way to look at things, but am I smarter than these huge institutions that make so much money every year off their dividend investments, off of all their investments? I like to think yes. Reality, we'll never know. Anyway, so that is a really good thing. I like pointing that out, because when they're higher held by institutions, you also have what is better for rocky markets. If the stocks are going all over the place and you're not sure what's going to happen, institutions typically have a lot more diamond hands. I haven't used that term like in forever, and I don't really like it, but they're less apt to sell when the market gets rocky. And so that is a good thing. You probably will see the stock fall a lot less than one that's held completely or predominantly by retail. So it's just something to think about. Now let's do the drip calculator. So we're going to do ABR and we're going to do O. Now, let's do this off the bat. It's going to be messed up because I would like to do it for the last 10 years, but I want to see what this one looks like prior to that. Wow. Okay. See, so we can see even the last, it only goes back to, no, it goes back to 1995 for both. So let's look at this. ABR, you would end with more money with dividends reinvested, which is insane. But a lot of that is because the market, when it fell so far, when the stock market crashed and when the housing market crashed. So you're looking at the ending investment of $320,000 off a 10-year investment, which is a total of almost 30 years, 28.25 years. And with Realty Income, you're still looking at $250,000 dividends reinvested and another 28.25 years. Really neck and neck. Only recently did Realty Income fall a little bit, which both of these have fallen. Some of the REITs are doing worse. Now let's look at dividends not reinvested, which I always like to reinvest dividends, especially if you think the stock is a safer bet, like Realty Income. Yes. Arbor Realty, maybe. It just depends. But without dividends reinvested, ABR is looking at $181,000, while O is only looking at $94,000. So with dividends reinvested, you really see the power of a company like Realty Income. And then with ABR, you see the ability of just the overall stock price to grow in time. It is pretty crazy, honestly. But this is it's a good chart. You definitely see ABR jumping all over the place, at one point being almost $200,000 long time ago. So definitely cool to look at. I do love using the drip. Use that, you guys, all the time that you can. And then another thing that I looked at with Arbor Realty is, this is a website I haven't used before, Guru Focus, but they talked about it. It popped up when I was reading an article, and they said that the price of Arbor Realty is $12.81, which it is, which their price to intrinsic value as of today is 0.6. Now, unless I'm reading this incorrectly, that is a good thing? Yes, so they're ranked higher than 53% of companies based off of the intrinsic value factor, which is a huge Warren Buffett stat, a way that he has always talked about buying stocks is looking at the intrinsic value. So Arbor Realty has been beaten down like crazy. This projected price per value or intrinsic value of $22 doesn't mean it's going to go to $22, guys. Do not always just believe that. That's just what they're calculating it out based on the financials, which it could be a good thing, but with dividends and stuff that can fluctuate. So all in all, I really do like Arbor Realty. I'm going to pull up the calculator and let's run the numbers. Okay. Doing the math behind this, let's start with $50,000. It'll help if I can type it. And we're going to multiply it by 13.1343 because you have to put it into the decimal. As a percentage, you get $6,715. We'll clear this because we don't need that much. We need less, which is crazy that you actually need less. We'll do 46,000 times 0.1343, which gives you $6,177, which is what, 12 less? So let's do $45,000 times 0. Yeah, so we'll leave it at that. So you need basically $45,000 to make $500 a month, which is incredibly low in my opinion, but this is a really high risk stock. Now, don't forget that you are going to lose a portion of that to taxes, 30% depending on your tax bracket, maybe a little lower or a little bit higher. So always keep the tax man in mind. Unfortunately, we have to do that, but I want you guys to remember that. It's very important when you think about investing. If you're going to put a higher risk, higher reward stock up against like a lower risk one, but you're going to make more money, but it's also higher risk and you have to pay more in taxes. So, that being said, it is really important to note. I really do like ABR, not financial advice, but I've owned this one for a while and I do buy it on the dips quite often. So if this one dips a little bit more, I may purchase some more shares. I think it's good for a Roth IRA. That's where I hold mine. If you guys want to see more videos like this, hit the like button. That always helps me out a bunch. And if you found this video useful or informative, please hit the subscribe button. That helps out a bunch too. I appreciate you guys for watching all the way here. If you did, you guys are the real ones. And I hope that I will see you in the next video. Again, drop any comments, likes, subscribes down below if you guys are interested. And thank you for being here. See you in the next one.